Hello, my name is Jared Nunn, and I am the State School Fund Coordinator. Welcome to the State School Fund Basics video series. In this video, we will be discussing the components of the State School Fund. The State School Fund consists of three major components. They are disbursements or carve-outs, subgrants, and the general purpose grant. The three subgrants are the high-cost disability grant, the transportation grant, and the small high school grant. If you would like to know more about those subgrants, we have other videos that explain it in greater detail. Here we have what is called the assumptions page. It's actually the top 2/3 of the assumptions page, and it's the first page of every new state school fund estimate that we produce. This page shows a total state allocation for the biennium, broken down into 2 years, 49% for the first year and 51% for the second year. Everything in red is a disbursement, and that's made per statute before the state school fund grant can be calculated. We then add in the local revenue for districts and ESDs, and we get the total revenue for formula. That total is divided 95.5% to districts and 4.5% to ESDs. There are a few carve-outs that are specific to districts and ESDs. So after we deduct those, we get the formula revenue for distribution for both districts and ESDs. Here's a quick rundown of the subgrants. The high-cost disability grant is a $55 million grant that reimburses districts for students on an IEP who have over $30,000 in eligible expenditures. The small high school grant is a $2.5 million grant paid to districts with a small high school that meets certain criteria, and it is an unrestricted grant. And the transportation grant reimburses districts for eligible transportation expenditures. Again, we have another video that goes deep into how these grants operate, so be sure to check those out. This is the state school fund estimate, and there's a separate page for each district in the estimate document. The estimate contains data on local revenue, the transportation grant, teachers' experience, ADMW and extended ADMW, grant amounts, and per ADMW rates. The data in these estimates is specific to each district. How is the state school fund grant calculated? Here's a picture of the overall calculation for the state school fund grant. The general purpose grant, combined with the transportation grant, is the total formula revenue. We deduct local revenue from total formula revenue to get the state school fund grant. What is the general purpose grant? The general purpose grant calculation is set in statute. The state sets a target of $4,500 per extended ADMW. That $4,500 is adjusted by teachers' experience in each district. The calculation is teachers' experience rate multiplied by $25 plus the $4,500 state target multiplied by extended ADMW multiplied by the funding ratio. If we take $4,500 and multiply it by the state estimated ADMW, we get a little over $3 million, but our formula revenue for distribution for school districts is over $7 million. So we use a funding ratio to ensure we distribute the total amount available to districts. The total formula revenue is the general purpose grant plus the transportation grant. The state school fund grant, which is the amount each district receives from the state, is the total formula revenue minus local revenue. Since districts receive local revenue from the county, that amount is reduced from the total formula revenue. This is the bottom 1/3 of the assumptions page, the first page of the estimates. And here's where you can find the data sources for each estimate. You can see if we are using estimated data or what year's data is available at the time of the estimate. It also shows the total transportation grant estimate for the state as well as state ADMR and ADMW. The way to figure out what has changed on each estimate is to look at this section of the assumptions page and compare it to the last estimate. You can quickly tell which data has changed. We may be using second period ADM data instead of estimated data for ADMR, or we may be using a new year's data for teachers' experience. How do we determine the funding ratio? Again, The formula in state statute does not account for the entire amount available, so we apply a funding ratio to ensure we are distributing the entire amount available. To get the funding ratio, we take school district's formula revenue for distribution minus the transportation grant, divided by state extended ADMW, divided by the state target of $4,500. Remember that every time there's a change in state school fund data, we will re-ratio. Again, all of the data for this calculation, as well as the funding ratio itself, can be found on the first page of the estimates, the assumptions page. Thank you for watching this video, and we hope you learned something from it. If you have any questions, please reach out to me or the State School Fund Program Manager, Vanessa Clark. Our contact information is here on the screen. We are happy to help in any way we can. Thanks again for watching.